In the untamed vastness between Kenya and Tanzania, a group of men defies time and the logic of fear. They don't carry firearms, but they have something predators respect: the Maasai tradition. In this video, you will discover how a semi-nomadic community defies natural laws daily, extracting fresh meat directly from the claws of lions. With clockwork precision, as field data reveals, they have only a few minutes to act. Get ready to dive into a true story of extreme courage, calculated risk, and a visceral connection with nature. In the scorching vastness of the African savanna, each new day marks the beginning of an age-old ritual, the clash for survival. Lions, hyenas, leopards, and wild dogs engage in a constant battle for food. Each species has developed unique hunting methods, from the stealthy attack of leopards to the intense cooperation of wild dogs, as reported by the Serengeti Predator Project. In this setting, strategy is as important as strength. Prey theft, common among predators, reveals the fine line between hunter and opportunist. Lions, traditionally seen as the kings of the savanna, are not guaranteed to keep what they hunt. Hyenas, which hunt in coordinated groups, are capable of displacing lions from a carcass, especially when the feline group is small or composed of young females. Even so, lions lead the food hierarchy, especially due to their strength and coalition work, as observed over decades by the Serengeti Lion Project. The struggle doesn't end at the capture. Holding on to the prey is a constant challenge, with so many predators watching for the slightest mistake. Each battle for food carries a cost. An unsuccessful hunt means days of hunger. A rushed attempt can result in injury or death. For lionesses especially, hunting must be precise. They are responsible for feeding the whole pride. Young males without a defined territory face the risk of exclusion or confrontation with rivals. The savanna offers no truces, only lessons, harsh, relentless, carved in the rhythm of the wild. And while the trained eyes of the great felines watch the horizon, other eyes, just as alert, move through the shadows, those of the Maasai. People who have learned to decode the savanna's invisible codes, coexisting with these predators over centuries. But unlike other animals, the Maasai do not hunt by instinct. They observe, assess, and when the moment comes, they act. And that's when the story takes an unexpected turn. Between Kenya and Tanzania lives one of the most emblematic peoples of the African continent, the Maasai. Recognizable by their red garments, spears, and ceremonial jumps, they represent a rare example of cultural resistance amid the pressures of modernity. Their semi-nomadic lifestyle is shaped by the savanna, the dry climate, and constant threats from local wildlife. As documented by UNESCO, the Maasai consider cattle a divine gift given by Enkai, their creator god, and base their entire existence around it. The circular huts made of mud, dung, and sticks are built by the women of the community, a symbol of a deeply cooperative social structure. Each family lives around an enkang, or fenced village, with the cattle protected in the center. This simple structure is, in fact, a symbolic fortress, a reflection of an age-old strategy of adaptation to a hostile environment. The cycle of life revolves around survival, herding, and the oral transmission of ancestral traditions. In a world that accelerates, they walk to the rhythm of nature. Being Maasai means carrying the weight of courage as heritage. From a young age, boys are trained to face the harshness of the savanna. It's not just about physical strength, but endurance. Reading signs on the ground, observing cloud movement, the wind and vegetation. As described by anthropologist Xavier Pomeroy in studies conducted with Maasai communities, everything in the environment is a clue, a silent code that dictates when to move the herd, when to stop, and when to watch. This knowledge, passed down from generation to generation, is more precise than any modern GPS. And amid this life shaped by sun and dust, emerges the figure of the warrior, the Moran. Among them is Kimani, a common name among the Maasai, but one that represents more than an individual. It symbolizes an entire lineage of youths trained to protect the community, hunt, and, when necessary, even face lions. Through these figures, the bond between tradition and survival is revealed in its purest form. But what happens when a people who depend on cattle must confront the predator that also desires it? In the savannah, where the line between life and death is drawn by almost invisible tracks on the ground, wisdom is more valuable than any weapon. Maasai warriors like Kimani don't just survive in this environment, they decode it. Every sound in the wind, every footprint in the earth, every change in animal behavior is a signal. As described by researchers from the Serengeti Lion Project, many warriors develop a clinical eye to detect the presence of predators from miles away, just by the positioning of vultures or the sudden silence of the vegetation. It's no exaggeration to say that the land speaks to the Maasai, and they learn to listen from a very young age. Oral tradition is their main book. In it are written the rain patterns, hunting cycles, warnings about nature's traps. Medicinal plants, for example, are not just remedies, they are allies in fighting infections, poisons, and even calming cattle. A complex system of adaptation strategies, transmitted with precision from father to son, has allowed this people to remain strong in the face of prolonged droughts and migrations of large felines. Kimani doesn't carry a map, he is the map. When guiding his community through territories dominated by hyenas, leopards, and lions, his instinct functions as a compass finely tuned by time. As revealed in records from the Maasai Oral Histories Project, this connection to the environment is not only practical, it's spiritual. Everything is interconnected, the cattle cycle, the movement of the stars, the mood of the earth. And when danger approaches, the right decision can mean the difference between a safe return and tragedy. This accurate reading of reality is put to the test in moments of extreme risk. And when it comes to a direct confrontation with a predator like the lion, the knowledge accumulated over generations turns into swift action. After all, not every people can steal prey from a hunter at the peak of its strength, but the Maasai don't just try. They have an impressive success rate, and that's where the true test of courage begins. Few scenes in the savannah are as surreal as the moment when a group of Maasai quietly approaches the still warm carcass of a hunt just abandoned by lions. Men lined up side by side, forming a human wall, advance with firmness and calculated calm. It's a dance of power and presence. According to observations documented by National Geographic, this unusual strategy has a remarkable psychological effect on the great predators. The lion, who until then dominated the ground, hesitates and often retreats. The maneuver does not depend on brute force but on tradition and mastery of animal behavior. The Maasai do not shout, do not run, and do not threaten chaotically. On the contrary, they walk with rhythmic steps, fixed eyes, and raised spears, not to attack, but to establish presence. This formation simulates a collective threat that lions struggle to interpret. As cited in predatory behavior studies by the Wildlife Conservation Society, the lion's natural reaction to uncertainty and coordinated visual noise is strategic withdrawal. In these crucial moments, time is both a relentless enemy and a silent ally. The warriors have only a few minutes, sometimes less, to carry out the prey theft. This movement requires more than courage. It demands precision and an instant reading of the predator's aggression level. One false move and everything can collapse. Still, they remain firm, even when a lion decides to test the limits and roars nearby as a warning. This coordinated action is one of the most powerful demonstrations of community and understanding of nature. There is no improvisation, only the certainty that each step follows an ancestral script. The human wall, which for a moment dominates the scene, is a symbol of coexistence between man and beast, a coexistence sustained by respect, audacity, and a rare kind of wisdom. But the true spectacle begins when the meat is finally within reach, and the seconds become a race against the very instinct for survival. The moment the lions step away, time becomes a scarce and precious resource. The Maasai know this better than anyone. According to National Geographic reports and records from the Serengeti Lion Project, the window of opportunity lasts only a few minutes. And it's in this brief window that everything happens. As if performing open-field surgery, the warriors spring into action with impressive speed. Every movement is calculated, the cut is clean, and the focus is total. There is no room for hesitation. Prey theft demands more than strategy, it demands cold blood. With each second, the risk of the predators returning increases. Even at a distance, the lions watch. They know that food is theirs by hunting rights. But the Maasai, with their experience and environmental mastery, turn this game of nerves into a silent display of power. Statistics show that they manage to remove meat from a carcass in 90% of attempts, a number that far surpasses the results of hyenas and African wild dogs. This advantage is a direct result of centuries of adaptation and study of animal behavior. They understand that lions do not react the same way to human threats, especially when those threats are organized, disciplined, and confident. And even with the cat's teeth and claws just meters away, the warriors move with the calm of those who trust their own reading of the situation. The operation is brief. The meat, carefully removed, is quickly divided. Everything is done right there, under the heat of the savannah, with the predator's watchful eyes and the wind whispering through the acacias. When it ends, they retreat with the same silence with which they arrived. But what goes on inside each warrior? What is the psychological cost of living on this razor's edge between life and death? Maybe the answer lies in the memories passed down in each village, by each fire lit at night, and in the gaze of Kimani, who still has much to teach. Despite the impressive success rate, prey theft carried out by the Maasai is always an act wrapped in danger. As documented in various National Geographic expeditions, including research from the Serengeti Lion Project, the fact that the lions temporarily abandon the carcass does not mean they've given it up. Quite the opposite. They remain close, alert, like silent shadows in the savannah, waiting for any sign of hesitation. The return can be sudden, and at that moment, every second matters. Even with a 90% success rate, the Maasai never act on impulse. Courage is present, but it is tempered by a keen sense of risk. They know how to read the subtle signs in the predator's bodies, recognize the snapping of paws, the muted growls, the tail movements. Each attempt is a balance between boldness and restraint. It's not about reckless bravery. It's about a strategic reading of nature, a skill only those who live in this extreme environment can fully develop. For Kimani and his companions, each mission is a living lesson in survival. Not just physical survival, but cultural. The success of these incursions sustains the community's pride and food supply, strengthens ties with elders, and perpetuates tradition. But it also comes at a cost: injuries, trauma, and sometimes losses. Still, they go on. There is no choice when you live in an ecosystem where resources are limited and competition is constant. It is in this tension between success and risk that the true spirit of the Maasai is revealed. They are not just survivors, they are guardians of an ancestral knowledge that defies even the natural order of predators. But where does this silent strength come from? And what drives them to repeat this ritual generation after generation, even knowing what's at stake? The answer may lie beyond the hunts, in the stories that withstand time. Observing the Maasai's journey across generations, it becomes clear that their greatest legacy may not lie solely in their spear skills or ability to face lions, but in their deep adaptation to the nature around them. They do not merely survive, they decode the environment like one reads an ancient language. Every hunting strategy, every community movement, every step on the savannah carries centuries of collective experience, passed down orally by elders like Kimani. It is not just tradition, it is a form of intelligence applied to daily life. What researchers call traditional ecological knowledge is, in practice, a living library. As documented in studies by the University of Nairobi and UNESCO, the Maasai develop complex systems for reading the land, from knowing where lions hunt to predicting climate changes based on insect behavior. This living memory allows them to maintain a survival routine even in the face of severe changes in the ecosystem. They do not control nature, but dance with it. Stories of courage, like the confrontations with predators or the prey theft, are not just chapters in an oral book, they are rituals that solidify identity. Each of these acts represents a link between the present and the past. When Kimani stands before a lion, he carries more than the hunger of his village on his shoulders. He carries an invisible line of memory and honor. What would seem insane to an outsider is, to him, a right and a responsibility. This legacy is an invisible fortress. It protects the youth, guides the leaders, and strengthens the community. But in the face of modernity, shrinking territory, and climate threats, a new question arises: how to preserve this knowledge while the world around it changes so quickly? Maybe the answer lies not only in tradition, but in how it can dialogue with the future without losing the essence that made it endure until now. Now tell me, did you imagine that human beings still risk their lives every day to face lions in the heart of the savannah? That even in the face of real danger of becoming the next prey, there is an entire community that sees this practice as an act of tradition, strategy, and survival? What would you do if you had only a few minutes to act with a predator's eyes locked on you? Do you think this courage is inherited or trained? Leave it in the comments. What impressed you the most in this journey between lions and the Maasai? Do you believe this relationship with the wild is sustainable or living on borrowed time? If this content stirred you, if it made you see the world with new eyes, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. There's still a lot of powerful stories from the wild and the human mind to share with you.